She hijacked my home, refused to leave for days, so I cut the power. Now everyone's calling me a heartless monster who ruined her kids' Christmas. I still remember the day my old friend, Alicia, and I crossed paths after years of not speaking. She had been a huge part of my childhood until I realized how one-sided our friendship had become. Alicia always had a knack for forgetting her wallet or springing unexpected expenses on me. Even so, when I bumped into her by chance, I thought maybe she had changed. I was wrong. At first, our reconnection felt natural, almost like old times. We chatted over coffee, catching up on nearly a decade of lost stories. For 3 years, everything seemed fine. She hadn't pulled any of the old tricks, no surprise bills, no sly manipulations. Truthfully, I was proud of the life I'd built. My kids were thriving, and my home was comfortable, so it felt good to share that happiness with someone who used to mean so much to me. I never imagined how quickly those good feelings could unravel. It started just before Christmas. Alicia asked if she and her children could stay with me while they waited for her new place to become available. Only 4 days, she said. I saw no harm in giving an old friend a soft landing, especially for her kids' sake. But after that initial promise, the days kept stacking up. 4 turned to 9 in the blink of an eye. Mornings were the worst. I'd get ready for work, expecting Alicia to rouse herself and manage her children. Instead, I'd find her curled up, refusing to budge, clicking her tongue like I was the one inconveniencing her. She would stretch dramatically and mumble half-asleep insults, yes, at me, when I tried to wake her. Meanwhile, her kids roamed my house, hungry or asking for things they needed. My own children were confused and upset. This was supposed to be a brief sleepover, not a permanent setup. I tried to be patient. I truly did. But the more Alicia acted like a lazy guest in my home, the more frustrated I became. On top of that, I discovered she hadn't even bought Christmas presents for her children, an admission that broke my heart. I ended up purchasing gifts for them myself because those kids didn't deserve to feel left out on the holidays. Alicia mumbled a vague thanks and promised to leave by the 23rd. Then, of course, that date came and went with no sign of her departure. I started to feel not just taken advantage of, but invaded. Finally, something in me snapped. I arranged for a plumber to visit, someone who owed me a favor, and had him shut off the water and power early one morning. That's when Alicia's kids ran to her, complaining about how they couldn't charge their electronics. Suddenly, Alicia was wide awake and furious, demanding answers. I told her I was heading out of town and couldn't fix anything until later, so she needed to pack her bags and go. Reluctantly, she loaded her stuff into her car. The moment they were gone, I felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders, and promptly had my plumber restore the utilities. I wish that had been the end of it. But days later, a mutual acquaintance slid into my DMs, furious on Alicia's behalf. Apparently, Alicia ended up in a place with no furniture and was telling people I'd kicked her out without reason, all despite me having plenty of space. My response was less than diplomatic. I told them, in no uncertain terms, to mind their own business. The exact phrase was a bit ruder. They blocked me, and I returned the favor with Alicia soon after. In the aftermath, guilt tugged at me. Was I wrong to do what I did? All I'd wanted was to protect my home, my family, and my own sense of peace. Alicia and I had shared a friendship once. It hurts to see it end so badly. But I also know what it feels like to be exploited, and I refuse to let her mistreatment overshadow my hard-earned stability. Maybe it shouldn't have ended with such drastic measures, shutting off utilities to force someone's hand, but I reached my breaking point. I still wrestle with the question of whether I acted too harshly. Then I remember all the times I tried to be kind, how I paid for her kids' gifts, how I gave her every chance to leave gracefully. In the end, I had no choice but to draw a firm boundary. And for my own peace of mind, I'm choosing not to look back. Update 1. Update 1. After all the chaos with Alicia, I took a few days to decompress. I blocked her on every platform I could think of and hoped that would be the end of it. Turns out, blocking someone doesn't automatically lock out every problem they've caused, especially if you share mutual acquaintances. A few nights ago, I got an unexpected phone call from a number I didn't recognize. It went to voicemail, and I listened out of curiosity. It was Alicia's sister, who I hadn't heard from in years. She started by saying she respected both sides but wished I hadn't trashed Alicia's reputation with mutual friends. Hearing that from someone who didn't even know the full story was infuriating, but I kept my cool and didn't respond. I thought ignoring it would be enough. It wasn't. A day later, I received a group text, yes, a group text, from that same sister, Alicia, and a few of their friends, essentially demanding I apologize. They accused me of humiliating Alicia and her kids, and they wanted me to take responsibility for kicking her out into a bare apartment during the holidays. They even brought up the presents I'd bought for her kids, framing it as some moral debt I'd incurred. Like the moment I did something nice, I became obligated to keep doing more. Nobody bothered to ask why I was so fed up in the first place. Nobody acknowledged the fact that Alicia was mooching off me and refusing to leave. It was all about how I supposedly shamed her in front of her children and forced them to witness a blow-up that wasn't their fault. The irony is that I did all I could to make those kids comfortable, even at my own expense. It wasn't about them, it was about Alicia trampling on my boundaries. Meanwhile, my own family and friends are split on what I should do. Some say I should stay silent and let her drama play itself out. Others think I should stand my ground publicly. A few people have hinted that I should meet Alicia in person to hash things out. No, thank you, I'm not even sure I'd feel safe. She's proven she can manipulate others, and the last thing I want is some ambush conversation where I'm ganged up on. The funniest part? There's a rumor circulating that I'm filthy rich, so it wasn't a big deal for me to host them indefinitely. That rumor is so ridiculous it's almost comical. Sure, my finances are stable, but it's not like I'm swimming in gold coins here. Even if I was, I don't owe her a permanent free stay just because we used to be friends. Hosting someone for a few days is one thing, getting scammed into running a never-ending Airbnb is another. If I'd continued letting her stay, I'd likely still be footing her bills. I've started getting daily DMs on social media from random people vaguely connected to Alicia. They claim I'm a traitor for turning away a childhood friend in her time of need. One even said I must not be a real mother if I can't empathize with Alicia's struggles. That one hurt, not gonna lie. I love my kids with all my heart, and part of that love means teaching them boundaries, showing them that even if you want to help, you should never let yourself be exploited. A coworker suggested I post an explanation on my own social accounts, setting the record straight. But that feels like pouring gasoline on a fire. I don't need to validate rumors that I'm a horrible host by publicly defending myself. I'd rather let Alicia's meltdown burn itself out. Still, it's unsettling to know that some people might believe her narrative. Worst of all, my older child asked me if Aunt Alicia and her kids were okay. She heard some of this drama through the grapevine at school. Apparently Alicia's oldest told classmates I was richer than the rest of the city and basically refused to help them. My child was confused because that's not what went down. Now, I'm in the awkward position of explaining adult conflicts to my kid without demonizing another child. I've tried to be as diplomatic as possible, but inside, I'm fuming at how twisted Alicia's version of events has become. I guess the silver lining is that the heat from Alicia's side might die down soon. People who try to manipulate others often find new targets once the well runs dry. She might keep trash-talking me to anyone who'll listen, but I'm hoping her circle eventually moves on. My biggest fear was that she'd show up on my doorstep unannounced, but since she managed to find another place, however unfurnished, maybe there's less incentive to barge back into my life. On the practical side, I changed the locks. That might sound drastic, but I got paranoid imagining a day when she'd just stroll in with a spare key. She once had access to my house for dog sitting. The new locks give me some peace of mind, even if it means Alicia and her entourage will spin it as more proof that I'm some cold-hearted elitist slamming doors on the needy. Whatever. I'll take the reputation hit if it means my home is secure. It's frustrating to be dragged through the mud by someone who's ignoring how many chances I gave her. It's also disheartening to realize just how quickly people can turn on you if they only hear one twisted side of the story. But I stand by my decision. I took Alicia in, even bought gifts for her kids when she refused or couldn't get any. I tried to reason with her, set a departure date. She blew it off. Only then did I resort to shutting off utilities, which was the nuclear option I never wanted to use. I'm not sure what else she expects from me. If someone reads her version and thinks I'm a monster, maybe they aren't people I need in my life anyway. Let them talk. I'll be over here, living my life, teaching my kids to value kindness but also to stand up for themselves when people abuse that kindness. At this point, I'm hoping the next update, if I ever have to share one, is just me saying everything's calmed down and Alicia moved on with her life without further drama. Right now, I'm dealing with the fallout, but I believe I'll come out stronger and wiser in the end. I hate that I lost a childhood friend, but I hate feeling used more. If she wants to paint me as a villain, so be it. I can live with that if it means I finally have my peace back. Update 2. Got an email yesterday from Alicia herself. The subject line read, "Can we talk?" which instantly set off alarm bells. She'd used that same exact phrasing a million times before, typically when she wanted something from me. Against my better judgment, I opened it. The gist? She'd landed a slightly better apartment, apparently furnished this time, and her kids were settling in okay, but she was struggling with people taking my story the wrong way. She suggested we meet up and talk it out so she could clear the air and move forward. I wasn't surprised that she painted herself as the misunderstood victim, but a part of me was curious. Did she realize she messed up and want to make amends, or was this another ploy to reel me back in? For 2 days, I debated a reply. My family and a few close friends gave me mixed advice, ranging from ignore her completely to go hear her side. You were friends once. Finally, I decided it was best for my own closure to at least see what she had to say. We met at a cafe, a neutral place I felt safe in. Right away, she apologized, sort of. She said she was sorry she made me feel like I had no choice but to force her out of my home. That made me feel freezing, never a great sign. It's basically an apology that shifts blame onto the other person. I could practically see the PR spin. Still, I let her talk. Alicia claimed that she'd been under severe financial strain, felt embarrassed asking for help, and panicked whenever I confronted her about leaving. She admitted she could have handled things better. But the moment I asked why she kept spinning stories to mutual acquaintances, she got defensive. She said she just vented and never expected anyone to harass me on social media. She insisted she never told her sister to stage any group text ambushes. When I pressed her on the rumor that I'm some heartless rich person, she shrugged and said, "Well, you do have more than most people we grew up with." That was her big justification. Apparently having a decent life automatically means I should host her for free, indefinitely, or I'm the villain. She asked if we could stay friends, like, again. At that point, I realized she wasn't looking for genuine repair. She was fishing for a golden ticket back into my world. I told her I'd forgiven her enough to move on mentally, but we wouldn't be rekindling any friendship. I explained that every time I let her back in, she uses me, whether it's money or a place to crash or just emotional labor. This time around, I'm done. I deserve better, and my family deserves peace. She looked stunned but didn't argue. We parted ways with no hug, just a mumbled goodbye. On my ride home, I felt an odd mix of relief and sadness. She was my friend since childhood, and it's heartbreaking to see how the years turned her into someone so manipulative. Or maybe she was always that way, and I just kept making excuses. Either way, the chapter is officially closed. I'm not going to spend my life looking over my shoulder waiting for Alicia's next drama storm. To anyone who's been in a similar predicament, dealing with a lifelong friend who takes advantage, trust your gut. People can change, but they rarely do when there's no incentive. Drawing boundaries isn't cruel, it's essential. If they respect you, they'll respect your limits. If they don't, they'll keep pushing until you have no choice but to walk away. So that's it. No big explosion, no final showdown, no neat bow tying everything together. Just two people meeting in a cafe, realizing there's nothing left between them but memories, and going their separate ways. I'm at peace with it, and I'm looking forward to better friendships, ones built on mutual respect and genuine care.